Welcome to the Murfreesboro Real Estate Report this week. One question I get asked a lot is when is the best time to sell a home? And we have some really good data for you that we've compiled. So that's a lot of what we are going to cover today here on the Murfreesboro Real Estate Report. I am John Turner. I am the team lead of the Turner Victory team at Onward Real Estate. And we bring this information to you every week. And we appreciate you tuning in again this week. So we will answer that question, when is the best time to list a home? But before we get into that, because we have a lot of data on that, I would like to go ahead and get into our regular data that we cover every week. So let's jump on into it. So right now, the Turner Victory Team Market Health Score for Rutherford County sits at 42. So we are in a balanced market, but over the past few weeks, we've really seen that start shifting more towards buyers. So it's a balance, but leaning towards buyers right now. Active listings, 1,647 active listings. Month supply is 3.42, and our 30-year fixed interest rate, mortgage rate is at 6.69%. That is the highest we have seen all year. This rate actually gets calculated on Thursdays. Friday, we actually saw just a little bit of relief, and we'll see. Seems like every time I come on here, there's talks of opening up the oil supply and the Strait of Hormuz and all that. Once again, this weekend, there's talk of that. So depending on what happens there, it may affect these rates a little bit one way or another. Let's look at our weekly chart. Again, this is for Rutherford County. Remember that the light blue is the percent of new construction of that number. And I really did a lot of research on new construction this week too, and what's going on there. I think we'll have some really cool stats to bring to you on that. We're not going to do it in this episode, though, but maybe in the next week or two we'll work on that. The interesting thing, though, overall, you can see down at the bottom that 35.2% of all the homes that are on the market right now are new construction. This week, 26.7% of what under contract is new construction. So new construction is about a third of the market as far as active listings, but it's about a quarter of the contracts that actually come in. And if you'll notice too, there was a huge influx of out of our 179 new listings, 50% of those were new construction as well. We talk about it every week, but under 500,000, you're still in the green as far as month supply. So it's still a healthy market, and it's leaning towards the sellers. Once you get between 500 and a million, it leans towards it leans more towards a balanced market. Now, something interesting in the 800 to a million price range, I really kind of looked at this a little bit this week too. We won't get into it as much on this episode, but our inventory levels have come down quite a bit in that price range, and also our new construction percentages have come down quite a bit in that price range as well. So very interesting information there. Whenever we look at our overall stats, our charts, let me get these just a little bit bigger, make it a little bit easier for you to see. Active inventory for this week. I always say my crystal ball is cracked, but whenever you look at data, sometimes it has trends and you could see what might happen. And we did predict this V right here. Last week, new listing or active inventory was down to 1583. We anticipated it coming up, and it did. It's up to 1647. Not quite as high as it was a couple weeks ago. Traditionally, we have still seen a little bit of a buildup for the next 4 or 5 weeks, 6 weeks, and then going into the fall, we'll see that drop off. Generally speaking, not always. If you remember back in 2023, we saw a buildup throughout the year of inventory until right at the end there. Month supply, very interesting how we started out the year quite a bit above, almost a month above last year, and it's tightened and tightened, and we could still see that. And then over the past, was that 6-8 weeks, this is just mimicked last year. So the orange is looking exactly like the green. Last year we had 3.27 month supply. Right now we have 3.42. So real close to where we were sitting last year. Now with that said, our inventory levels are up, but our sales have been up as well. New listings actually rebound a little bit this week. A lot of that was that new inventory. And what you have to understand is the way that new inventory works. I say new inventory, new construction inventory. Builders tend to build in blocks. And I'm talking about your national builders. So they open up this section here, and on this street, they're going to have 8 or 10 homes that they're going to start building kind of all at the same time. So they get the foundations in one right after another. You get the framers in one right after another. And it all just makes sense from a production standpoint. But what happens is these listings also go into the system kind of that same way. You have an on-site agent who's sitting there, and let's say it's a Monday and there's not a whole lot going on a Monday in the office, not too many people coming through. So they sit there and input all the listings in one day. What happens is their expiration date is the same time then. So it's not unusual when we get to certain things, like at the end of the month, end of a quarter, anything like that, where we see the delisted properties actually increase quite a bit because all these listings expire at the same time. And then what they do is they turn around and put them right back into the MLS. And that's really kind of what has happened here. So that's the reason why you see the spike here. You could go back the past couple of years and see the same thing, kind of a spike right in this time period where a lot of that new inventory has come on. It's new listings that had been delisted and they're coming right back on. So anyway, hope that gives you a little bit of insight into the industry. Weekly pendings. This is something we were watching really closely. I did a lot of research on this last week as far as what was going on, because if you look over here in July, our pendings were up 25% over last year, a really huge number. I'm sorry, that's in June, but in July they were down quite a bit. And there was some concern there. I think as the people who followed this data looked at it and said, hey, what's going on? Are we hitting a down market now? And there was a couple of things that came out of that. Yes, we could be hitting a down market because July was down with homes that went under contract, which is a leading indicator of where we're going to have closings. But 1 month usually is, you don't take that as a trend. So we really wanted to start watching that this month, and we will continue to watch that. But what came out of it is whenever I combined the numbers for June and July and just treated that as one block, our numbers were actually much better for this year versus last year, even with the lower pending numbers in July. So I think what happened is just some people moved their plans up, and we had more activity in June than we normally have, which caused us to have slower activity in July. And the reason why I feel more like that than I did maybe a week or two ago is you look at this, pendings is exactly the same as last year. 101 for this week this year and 101 for the same week last year. So if we see another rebound and pendings go up a little bit here, it tells me that July was just a 1 month anomaly and really I guess June would be as well. We got real excited when pendings were up 25% in June. So anyway, you can't just take 1 week or 1 month and say that's a trend. And that's one of the things you get in trouble with whenever you start evaluating data. We're going to talk a little bit about when is the best time to list a house and sell it. But do want you to look at this, goes hand in hand. Right now, of all the homes that have sold between May 11th and August 9th, so this is rolling 90 days, all the homes that have actually gone under contract is what that is. 33% of them went under contract in the first 7 days. Now, that does not mean 33% of all homes that came on the market went under contract. It's 33% of the homes that actually went under contract. They did it in the first 7 days. So that does tell you that there are buyers out there that are looking. We had a great conversation this weekend with some friends that are looking to buy a house, and they were expressing their frustration because where they look out there, there's a lot of homes that have been sitting for a while that just really didn't match up what they expected with the market, either pricing or presentation. And we had this exact discussion that now that they're in the flow, things are going to come on the market, but you got to be ready to react. As a matter of fact, we talked about one. They said, hey, it came on the market a couple of days ago. We're interested in it. I looked it up right then, and within a couple hours of that time of us looking at it, there was already, they'd already called for highest and best because they had multiple offers. But that particular house was presented right and priced correctly, and that's what you've got to do in this market. So we'll get into that a little bit more detail here in a minute. The other thing I want to look at, we always try to look at showings because this is really a leading indicator. And in the below 400,000 showings were over 2.5. That's a pretty good number. I don't remember the 300,000 to 400,000 being quite that high in the past weeks. So we are seeing decent numbers there, and it's reflected in our average. The average, if you're on the market, any house on the market, the average right now is 1.2 showings a week. And you can see this had declined for several weeks. Now we see this slight increase. Will that continue? I don't know. I mean, we'll see whether it's a trend or whether it's just a blip. It's not a huge increase, but it does give us some encouragement that buyers are still out there. So let's talk a little bit about the best time to sell a house. What we did is we went back and we looked at the past couple of years to see when homes sold, and not only how many sold, but what percentage of the market. Because, if 10 homes sell this month, but there was 100 homes on the market, that's 10%, right? So 10% of the market sold. But if there were only 10 homes on the market and 10 sold, that means everything sold. So you really have to look at how many homes were on the market too to really get a gauge. The other thing that really comes into play right now also, or at least I thought did, was mortgage rates. As I mentioned earlier, mortgage rates were higher right now than we have been all year. And I do think that's going to make a little bit of impact on what happens. I was surprised, though, that over 2 years, because each month was in the 2 years was a different mortgage rate. Just the mortgage rates were a different place in both of these examples. But the trend still, for the most part, held true. And really what happened is when we look at the spring band right here, we're calling it, about 2 out of 3 homes sold. Okay, and these are existing homes, all right? About 2 out of 3 homes that hit the market actually sold. But when we go back and look at the past late summer band, the August, September, October, so you call it late summer, early fall, about 1 out of 2 homes sold. So for the past couple of years, and really we could probably run this back for many years, I've always, people always said, hey, I guess spring's the best time to sell. And we've always said, well, yeah, it is. But also you have more competition because, as you can see, there were more homes listed during this time too. But in the spring right now, what we've seen is about 2 out of 3 homes sell, and then in the late summer, fall, about 1 out of 2. Now, does that mean your home, that it's a bad time to list right now? No, it does not mean that. You have a 50% chance of selling based upon past data, but you have to get everything correct. So the interesting thing, here's another stat. Whenever we look at the Tru Days on market, which is something that the Turner Victory team follows, which is a little bit different than the MLS days on the market, because we go back and look at the original listing, not just this MLS listing. We've talked about this before, how sometimes a strategy is you list a house for a little while. If nothing happens, you pull it off the market and put it back on. And the MLS just shows you that number. We go look at the in its entirety. So our Tru Days on the market is definitely going to be higher than the MLS days on the market, but we feel like it gives you a truer picture of what's going on with the market. But you could see in February, March, and April where the Tru Days on the market. In May, it was in the 40s, and you get into August, September, October, November, you're closer to 60. So taking a little bit longer to sell in those months as well. If you look at last August, there was 687 homes that came on the market last August, and this is Rutherford County, okay, because local data. And now the 687 homes that came on the market, over 51% of them sold, but 48.6 did not sell. So about half sold, and about half of them didn't. And as you can see, the Tru Days on the market was 65. And this just shows you the mortgage rate. This is this year, but we went back and looked at it through all this time, and really, we know that mortgage rate does impact things, but it did not impact it near as much as what I anticipated that it would impact. So, because what happens is someone moves into town. They got a job relocation. They move into town. They've got to buy a house, or they got to find somewhere to live anyway. So even though the mortgage rate may not be ideal, they still need somewhere to buy. So they'll buy, and hopefully, if mortgage rates come down, they'll refinance. But there are people buying and selling every day because life doesn't go on hold because of mortgage rates. So, what does this tell us? If you are a buyer, generally speaking, you're going to have more leverage in the fall because 1 out of 2 homes are going to sell. So, not as much competition and hopefully a little bit more motivated sellers. With that said, you saw the stat that of the homes that actually sell, that go under contract, over 30% of them, about 34% of them, go under contract that first week. So if it's one of those houses, and if you've been looking, if you've been out looking at houses, when a house hits the market and the seller prices it right and they present it right, and whenever you get into that situation, you better be ready to act because there's a good chance there's another buyer out there who may be doing the same thing. Sellers, you want to be that person. You want to be that person who prices it correctly, presents it correctly, and you go under contract that first week. As a matter of fact, a lot of the data we looked at showed that over half the homes sell in the first 2 weeks. So definitely want to be there. If not, you start waiting for buyers to come into the market. Your odds really go down after those first couple of weeks. Let me see. I think that is. Let me look through my notes here because I always have a bunch of notes. Probably, I have a lot more notes than I share with y'all. I love data, so if you have any questions about anything, I probably have the numbers somewhere. We can pull them based upon what we've got. But yeah, I think that's what we got for you this week. I appreciate you tuning in. Appreciate you tuning in every week. Appreciate those who comment or who have reached out to us. Please feel free to do that. It helps us with the algorithms if you do comment or if you like it, because we do enjoy bringing this to you. And a lot of you who listen to this, I know are fellow agents, and that's fine. I mean, we put it out there. We think it's good for our whole industry to be educated, and this, quite frankly, isn't just something that everybody thrives on, so they like to get more of a recap from me. And I get that, and I appreciate it. So if y'all give us a like if you're one of those, like I say, I definitely would appreciate it. But I am John Turner. I am the team lead of the Turner Victory Team at Onward Real Estate. We bring this report to you every week. We've created the Tru Insights that we bring to you not only here, but we put them on our website at turnervictory.com. Because we want to give you a good overview of what's going on in the market in Murfreesboro and all of Rutherford County, Smyrna, Laverne, Rockville, Eagleville, Las Casas, Christiana. I always forget somewhere. So if you're in Rutherford County, this data is for you. So appreciate y'all tuning in. Until next week, I hope you make it a great week, and we'll see you then. Thank you.